Hello Survivor and welcome to DayZ, an open-world post-apocalyptic survival simulator set in Eastern Europe around the time period of 2013 to 2017. Most of the world's population has become infected by a disease that has turned them into aggressive, zombie-like creatures that will attack you on sight or sound. You'll find yourself on the coast of Chernarus with barely any supplies and with the goal of simply staying alive. You'll need to find warm clothing, food, drink, weapons and tools. You'll be crafting campfires, traps and building materials. You'll be fighting zombies and wild animals and hunting deer and wild boar. Most dangerously though, you'll be encountering other survivors who could be friendly or, more likely, highly aggressive. There are no missions, checkpoints or waypoints in DayZ. It is an open world survival experience like no other. You'll have the most immersive gaming experiences of your life. But DayZ is a hard taskmaster, and as a new survivor you've got a lot to learn. And in this video we're going to be covering all of the basics to get you started. And please use the timestamps in the description below the video to jump to the sections you're interested in. Before we get started though, I want to talk about dying. In DayZ, when your character dies, that's it, they're gone, permadeath style. You'll find yourself back on the coast of Chernarus as a new character in a random location. Do not let this bother you though, as dying a lot is a big part of learning DayZ, and you will learn something new every time you play this game. Okay, so we're starting right at the beginning in the screen you see when you fire up DayZ on your Xbox or your PlayStation. And although I'm doing this on an Xbox, I'll try and transpose the controls over to Xbox as well. So what have we got? Well, if we start at the top, customized character, we can kind of choose some different things for our character, what they look like. We can't choose a loadout or anything like that, because remember DayZ is all about spawning in with very little and trying to survive. Watch the introduction video. It's quite good. It kind of gives you an idea of what you're in for. Now, don't get too excited when you see it says tutorials. It always makes me laugh, this, because this is just, I mean, okay, it is a little bit useful. It is telling you how to do a few of the things. So have a read through those. And then we've got the controls. So again, you're going to be looking at this quite a lot because there's a lot of different things to do. And then you've got your options where you can change things like the sound and whether you want to use invert vertical view. Aim assist is just for zombies, it's not for players. You could turn on mouse and keyboard if you wanted to. Vertical sensitivity, horizontal sensitivity, the normal stuff. And then we click on play. Now this is the server browser. So DayZ is a online multiplayer game. You don't actually, the game isn't hosted on your local PlayStation or Xbox or PC. It's hosted on servers, so computers out in the cloud somewhere in different parts of the world. And as you can see in the top left hand corner, we have official and we have community servers. So official ones are the ones that are paid for by Bohemia Interactive, the devs behind and the publisher behind DayZ. And they have them all over the world. So as you kind of go down, you can see we've got all these names, and then let's go back, and then you'll have the name of the server at the top. So DayZ AP SG 22409 temporary. Players is the number of players that are on it, and slots is the number of slots. Now, what you want to do is if you press right on your D-pad, you can go through them. AP, I think AP is Asia Pacific, so if you're in Europe you probably want to avoid those. I could be wrong with these names. So there we go. So we've got DayZ EU, so that's good. EUDE, yeah, sorry, so Asia Pacific would be Sydney, wouldn't it? Asia Pacific SG, I'm going to guess Singapore. I could be wrong there. And then we've got DayZ EU, so we've got that's in DE, which should be Deutschland, Germany. As you can see, that server's also available for keyboard and mouse, and you see some of them are first person only. Now first person is good on next-gen consoles, PlayStation 5, Xbox One S, Xbox One X. It's not too brilliant on last-gen consoles. It can be make you feel a bit odd. And temporary servers, they're just there, and they'll refresh. So if you go onto a temporary server, fairly quickly, it will either disappear or your stuff will not save on the server. So we keep going. So we've got DayZ, EU, Germany, and then we keep going, and we've got AP, that might be Asia Pacific. That's Livonia, so that's the Livonia DLC. And we've got US Los Angeles, US Miami, US New York. So you'd always try and pick a server that was fairly close to where you are, and probably one that was either empty or had low servers on. Now, unfortunately, at the moment, the browser doesn't show you what time of day it is on the server. On PC, it does. Hopefully, at some point, they'll update that. So you might find that when you go into a server, it may well be nighttime, which isn't brilliant when you're first starting off. Also, what you want to do is you want to write down the name of the server, or you want to favourite it. So press Y on Xbox, or you would press triangle on PlayStation. Let's go back to a German one for me. So let's choose DayZ EU DE 3945. So I'm going to favourite that one. So what I can now do is you've now got your filters on the right hand side. So if I go over using the right trigger to my filters, and I go down to favorited and press A to change it on Xbox, that would be X on PlayStation. Then press X on Xbox, or square on PlayStation to refresh the server. There you can see, so I've only got my one server on there, my favourite server. But I always recommend you write it down as well, because there's nothing more frustrating than come back to a game of DayZ to not remember the server you're on. And if you log into a different server, the game puts you in a different location on that server, so it kicks you somewhere else, which can be very, very frustrating, because often you might well be lost. And also, if you've got a base on that server or a stash, you won't be able to get it back. Now, if we press the top right shoulder button, RB, on Xbox, we go to the community servers, and let me just clear these filters out. So let's reset the filters. So community servers, which have lots of them have these rather strange names, these are ones that are paid for by community members, in console terms paid for by likes of you and me, and hosted by Nitrado. And I should probably add that each server has an instance of DayZ running on it, a different instance of DayZ, whether that be Chernerus, the original map, or Livonia, the DLC map. And what people can do on these community servers, they can customize them, so they can have things like more loot, they can have less loot, they can have longer days, shorter nights, they can have custom buildings, all this sorts of thing, more zombies, less zombies, all this sort of stuff. And sometimes they will also be passworded, so you won't be able to get in. Also, as well, sometimes you might find that they have names that you can then search for in order to maybe join their Discord or join their community, to find out they might have particular rules or things like that. As you can see, if you look down the bottom, there's 243 pages of community servers, where I think there was only 8 pages of official servers. So it's a real place of growth for the game on community servers, and it's very exciting. However, if you're starting off, I would always say start off with an official server, because you're going to be getting the vanilla version of DayZ. You're going to spawn where you'd expect to around the coast, and it will kind of get you used to the mechanics of the game before you go any further. So when you're ready, hit A. It'll start to connect you in. Now, you see where with me it says timer prolonged, your position might be altered due to a server change. That's because previously I was on a different server. So now it's saying, look, you're not allowed to do that. If you server hop between servers, we're going to put you something else. The reason for that is because what people would often do is you would go to, say, a place where there's lots of loot, sign out of one server, go into the next one, be in the same place and take the loot, then go back to the other server. So that's called server hopping. So in order to stop people doing that, if you change servers within a particular amount of time, you will then be stuck somewhere else on a different server, or there may well be a big gap in between. So there we go. Hi everybody, so here we are on the coast of Chernarus somewhere with our newly spawned character. Remember, DayZ is a permadeath game, so if this guy dies, or girl depending on who you spawn in as, that's it, you'll start again at the coast. So let's have a look at the HUD. So if you look in the bottom left hand corner, you'll see the stamina bar. So as I sprint, the stamina bar goes down, so you can only sprint for a certain amount of time, and the more gear you're carrying, the more weight you have, the smaller that bar will be. You'll also see the noise icon as well. So if you're sprinting, you're making more noise. If you're sort of crouching and walking, you're making less noise, and that's to do with whether you're going to attract zombies or not, but also gives you an idea of if you're in a player versus player situation, you know, that's just telling you you're walking quietly. Now, very, very importantly, as DayZ is a survival simulator, if we look in the bottom right hand corner, you can then see the very, very important icons. We have the hydration icon, the little bottle. We have the food icon, the little apple. We have the temperature icon, the thermometer. We have the blood icon, the little drop, and we have the overall health icon. So what we need to do is we need to make sure we drink clean water or fluids regularly, so that would be water from a clean source, or water that we've purified, or cans of Pepsi, or things like that. We need to make sure we eat good stuff regularly, so that could be tinned food, it could be cooked food, stuff that isn't rotten, maybe fruit that we found on the ground, or maybe dry fruit, but the stuff that hasn't gone off. We need to keep ourselves warm, so we need to find better clothing, wear hats if that clothing gets wet. We need to dry off, we need to, make fires and sit next to it. And the way that works is the further you move inland with Chernarus, the altitude goes up, so the higher you are on Chernarus, the colder it gets. Also, it changes with the year as well. So at this time of year, when I'm recording this video in January, actually the game is colder than it is in July. It reflects what the real time is in the world. So blood will get affected if we get attacked by a zombie and we cut ourselves, or maybe our shoes break, or maybe if we slide down a ladder with no gloves on, we'll start bleeding, so that will then go down, so we need to stop the bleeding, and then we need to then that will slowly go back up. On our overall health, basically what will happen is if we stay dehydrated for too long, so if the little drink icon goes to red, or the food icon goes to red, or the blood is in the red, our overall health will start to drop. If that gets all the way down to 0, we will then die. Also, what you'll see in the bottom left hand corner is if you get ill, you'll see like a little bug will appear, like a little virus icon, and if that appears, then you've got some sort of illness, and you've got to figure out what sort of illness you have by your symptoms. So are you sneezing, are you coughing, are you sweating, is your vision going blurry, and all this sort of amazing stuff, which we'll cover later. Also, if you've taken some pills, whether that be vitamin pills or tetracycline, the antibiotics, that will then appear there, and it'll tell you how long that is affecting you for. So on this particular server, the crosshair is enabled, so you can see that in the center, and we can start thinking about our adventure now. Right, well, before we go off for adventuring, I better talk about some movement that we can do, because I forgot to cover that. So, again, I'm on the Xbox controller, but I'll do my best to transpose it to PlayStation. So if we press B, we can crouch. That would be circle on PlayStation. And then we can walk nice and quietly. If we press and hold B or press and hold circle, we can then crawl along the ground, which is very, very good for being quiet. If we just push forward on our left stick, we'll jog, and if we click it in, we will run, making lots of noise there and using lots of energy. You can jump up and down with the A button or the X on the PlayStation, and that will also get you over the top of it make you vault as well. So that's kind of basic movement. If we press and hold left trigger, we'll go into the sort of fighting stance, and if we tap the right trigger, we will then start to punch. If you double press or double tap your top left shoulder button, you'll zoom in so you can have a quick closer look at stuff, and if you double tap or double click your right stick in, you go into first person mode. Now some servers are locked in first person mode, which means you can't double click it to come out into third person mode. Now before we die, because if you look in the bottom right hand corner, you'll see that my food is in the red. Let's go into our inventory. On Xbox, it's the buttons with the two little squares. I think it's the touchpad on PlayStation. So what I'm going to do I show you what all these bits mean. So on the right hand side, we have the stuff that we've got on our body in terms of stuff we've got on our clothes, in our backpacks, that sort of thing. In the middle, and we get there by pressing the left shoulder button, we have what's in our hands, and then on the left there's the stuff that's on the ground or in containers around us. So because I'm getting hungry, first thing I'm going to do is just use the right shoulder button to go over to my equipment, and then use the D-pad to go down to the apple. And if you look down to the bottom, it gives you an idea of what you can do with that item. So we've got A to put it into our hands, press and hold X or press and hold square on PlayStation to drop it, but I'm just going to press A to put it in my hands. Then I'm going to press B on Xbox or circle on PlayStation to come out, and I'm going to press and hold in the right trigger. If you look in the bottom left hand corner, it tells you what you can do. So it says eat hold. So I'm going to press that, and we're going to eat this pear so we don't starve to death while I'm trying to do this tutorial. This is live on DayZ. There we go. So that's going to give us some food, a little bit of food, and it's going to give us a little bit of hydration as well. So let's go back into the inventory. Now, the inventory will give you the most hassle in DayZ. It is janky on PC. It is even jankier on console. But once you get used to it, it's not that bad. It's all based around what's on you on the right, what's in your hands in the middle, what's on the ground around you on the left, and combining items. So let's just look at moving stuff around. So at the top we can see all these greyed out bits. These are for things I haven't got. So I haven't got any weapons on my shoulders, I'm not wearing a vest, I'm not wearing a belt, I'm not wearing a backpack, I'm not wearing a hat, but I have got a nice white t-shirt on, I have got some pants on, and I've got some trainers. And we can see the t-shirt has cargo capacity of 12, and the hiking pants have a cargo capacity of 20, but I'm already using 4 of those things. So depending on the item weight and the size, it will use up different amounts, and when it's full, you can't carry anything else. So if we want to move things around, if you press and hold A on Xbox or X on PlayStation, and then you go up on the D-pad, for example, t-shirt, and then release A, we've moved the bandages from our t-shirt from our pants to our t-shirt. We can move them back again. So press and hold A, that would be X on PlayStation, press down, and we've put that back into our pants. Now, if we press and hold in the left stick while we are over an object, we can then move our right stick around and apply that object to our quick menu. So there we go. So I've applied the bandage to the top of the quick menu. So we come out of the inventory. Now if I press and hold the right shoulder button and then use my right stick around, I can then quickly select that particular item. So although you might think, well, there's only 3 things, depending on what you're wearing, you will get more slots for quick items. So when you're wearing a jacket or a utility vest or a military vest, all of a sudden you'll have lots of different slots that you can put stuff in, so you can quickly change between weapons and bandages and knives and all that cool stuff. So back into the inventory again. Now, when you've got something in your hand like this, if you look at the bottom, you see we've got some options. So X to put it into our inventory and A to move it. So we press X, straight in our inventory. Now, often in DayZ, the inventory kind of bugs out a little bit. And so you might find that you'll have something in your hand, or it will be on the floor, and you won't be able to put it straight into your inventory, or you won't be able to put it straight into your hand. This is often where you use the A hold move option again. So you press and hold A on Xbox or X on PlayStation, and then use the shoulder buttons to move to the left or the right, and then go up and down with the D-pad, and then release to put that item in the particular slot where you want it to go. So let's put it on the floor like that, or back into our hands. So if you're ever in a situation where you can't seem to move something by pressing X through inventory or to put it into your hands, try just using the hold method, and that will often work. Also, sometimes something might be on the floor, and if we go over to it, you see at the bottom it says X to inventory. Sometimes that won't work. If that's the case, put it in your hands first and then put it into your inventory, and that can work as well. Now, if we put this into our hands and then we come out of the inventory, if we press and hold X on Xbox or square on PlayStation, you see we drop the item. So there's an item. In order to pick it up, we can either press X or square, and that will go into our inventory, or just drop that again, or if we press and hold X or press and hold square, that will put it into our hands. And when we've got the item in our hands, this is when you can then use it. So if this glow stick wasn't turned on, you'd click your right trigger, and that would turn it on. At this point as well, if we had something like a knife in our hand, you could press left trigger and then we could, attack with the knife. Not very good to use a glow stick. But if we double tap on X or double tap on square, we get into the throw animation. And once we're in this animation, we can press and hold the right trigger, hold it down, then release it, and our character will throw whatever it is. And we can go, and we can find it, and we can pick it up. Right, okay, so let's go back into the inventory again, and just have a look at some information that the inventory gives us. So if we just move with our D-pad over our shirt, you'll see that it tells us that our t-shirt is worn. So in DayZ, as you wear stuff and as you use stuff and as you get attacked by zombies and things like that, it will go from... if it started off as pristine, it can go pristine, it can go worn, it can go damaged. Now, what you want to avoid is getting to ruined. When something gets to ruined, if you take it off, you won't be able to put it back on again, and you won't be able to fix it. Also, if you look in the top right of where it says t-shirt, it says bad insulation. So in DayZ, we always want to be try to find stuff that is warm, because the warmer we are, the slower we use energy, so our food will last longer. So always bear that in mind when you're looking stuff. And also up here, it will tell you whether something is wet or not. Now, if something is wet, like a t-shirt, let's put that in our inventory. So let's say our shirt was wet. If we press A to put it into our hands, if this was wet, what we could do now while it's in our hands, we would see in the bottom left hand corner the option to wring it out. And after that, it would then be damp, which is better than being wet, and that would offer us a little bit more insulation. If you pick up a piece of clothing, you press Y, that will then equip it, so you'll put it on. If you've already got a piece of clothing on, you may well have to take it off and put it on the ground. Just bear in mind that if you take something off and drop it on the ground, by pressing and holding X, the things that are in that item will be dropped as well. So make sure you put them back in your inventory, otherwise you'll lose them. So always think about that. If you drop something, just double check you haven't put it on, and then we can put it on that way. Now, if we go down to the bandages, what's very, very important here on the bandage, you say it's pristine, but it's disinfected. So you know how we talked about getting ill earlier on? If you use rags to stop yourself bleeding, or use a bandage to stop yourself bleeding, and it is not disinfected, you run the risk of getting blood poisoning, which is very, very bad, and you will die unless you can find some tetracycline antibiotics. So the other thing you'll want to know is, how do you get more storage? Well, you get clothes that've got more pockets, you get backpacks, you get utility vests, that sort of stuff. And the more stuff you have, the warmer you will be, the more stuff you carry, but the slower you will move. Well, you won't move slow, but you won't be able to sprint for quite as long. So there we go. So that's the basic way that you can... have we come picking stuff up, did we? Let's just drop them. Yeah, so there we go. Just X to pick stuff up, or hold X or hold square to put it into your inventory. So there we go. That's the basics. We can now move around. Now, let's look at some basic looting for the sort of stuff you should be looking for. Now, so the question is, which direction should we be going in order to find that very useful loot? And the answer is, follow the coast. All right. When you're new, it doesn't really matter which way you go, whether you go, to your right or to go to your left, but follow the coast. And what you're looking for to start off with are the little boats, and you'll find these little boats, and sometimes they'll have useful stuff in them. And also, what you want to be doing is looking to see if there's a road near you, because roads have road signs, and if you see a road sign, that will have a name on it, and then you can look on a website called I Survive. I'll put a link in the description below the video, and then you can figure out where you are. Now, you don't necessarily have to know where you are in DayZ. In fact, it can be really fun where you don't know where you are and you just explore. But there's lots of towns and villages and cities along the coast of China. So as long as you head along the coast, you will eventually hit somewhere. When you're a new spawn, don't immediately start running inland. The idea is, in the first hour, you want to find a town, find a village, find a city, carefully loot up to give yourself some warm clothing, some food, maybe a weapon, that sort of thing. So you've got enough to survive for a little bit longer, then think about moving inland. As you move inland, there's more and better loot, and kind of the end game scenario of DayZ, if you want to follow that end game scenario, is to move to the northwest, where you'll get good weapons near the military bases. Or you don't have to do that. Oh, we've got some spare shoes, excellent. You can go somewhere like the northeast or the west, and you can farm or you can hunt. So here we go. So here is a sign. Normally the road sign's a little bit easier. So this is Electro. So that's good. So as you can see, we're coming into a large town. So what we do now is we would very, very carefully move around, because we haven't got any weapons to fight zombies with. We've got to use our fists, and we can start to loot. Now, I know I said it at the beginning of the videos, but in DayZ you will die an awful lot. It's just part of the game, so don't worry about it. You don't expect to be able to survive for beyond the first hour in your first playthroughs. You won't. There'll probably be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times when you die fairly quickly, but don't worry about it. Eventually you'll get enough food, you'll have a good run, because a lot of it is luck, and you'll get inland. Now, just want to show you this. So these police pants, if we look at these and we use our D-pad to go over them, we can see these have medium insulation. So what we should do is take off our hiking pants and put the police pants on, because they will keep us a little bit warmer. And so now I just need to carefully move around this area, being careful for, I call them zombies, but they're not. Careful of the infected, careful for other players, because other players are the most dangerous things, because they really enjoy killing fresh players, and just seeing if I can collect the sort of loot I need to continue with my adventure now. So we've come to a custom location on one of my Xbox servers to talk about looting and the kind of loot you should be looking for, which is kind of what my character is now wearing here. So what I've managed to get is I've got a rather nice pair of trousers on, nice pair of hunter's trousers, and I've got a nice firefighter's jacket. I found a hat, I've got a vest, and I've got a nice big dry bag. So as you're wandering around, you want to be looking for stuff, and what you're interested in is, if you look at like these hunter pants, on the left hand side at the top it says they're pristine, so they're in very good condition, which is nice, and they give me best insulation, which is good, because DayZ is set in Chernobyl, and Chernobyl gets very, very cold. Now I've also got a very nice firefighter jacket, which gives me best insulation as well, so my character's going to be nice and warm. I found myself a field vest, so that gives me more capacity to carry things. I've got a very nice dry bag, which gives me loads of capacity. I've got a nice woolly hat, which keeps my head warm. I've got some nice gloves to keep my hands safe if I'm eating, so it keeps my hands clean, and if I slide down a ladder, it'll stop them getting cuts. I find myself some nice boots. Something about boots though, just remember that you may want to have some hiking boots or work boots or combat boots when you're out in the countryside, but when you're in towns where there's lots of zombies, put some sneakers on, put some trainers on, so you're a bit quieter. And so, as you're wandering around, that's the sort of thing you want to look for. Now, on most vanilla servers, on most normal servers, stuff doesn't spawn in pristine. It will spawn in damaged. So you're also looking to change things as you go along. Now, you can repair items. So, for example, my jacket and my trousers, as they become damaged, if you find yourself a sewing kit, you can combine the two, and then you can repair things, and so you can bring things back up to a worn status. But if you're wandering around and you've got some trousers on that are damaged and you find some that aren't, obviously swap them over. Similarly, if things get wet, you can put them in your hands and you can wring them out. But after that, if you find some dry ones, try them out. Now, as items get damaged and they get wet, you'll see the insulation value changes, so it's pretty easy to compare the things. So let's wander along here and let's talk about food for a minute. So when you're wandering around, food and drink are the most important things. Without these, you're going to die. So hopefully you'll find things like Pepsi Cola. Now, if you find these and you pick them up, I've got them in my hand there, you can just press your right trigger and your character will just simply drink them, which is great. Nice and easy, and there's quite a few cans hanging around in people's houses. If, however, you see plastic bottles or canteens, what you want to do is you want to take them to your hand straight away. So press and hold X on Xbox or square on PlayStation, and you want to look down and you want to empty the plastic bottle straight away, because the water that is in plastic bottles and canteens will probably be bad. So you always want to empty it out. And then you can go somewhere like a water pump, like I've got here, and we can fill our water bottle up, and then we can drink it. You can also drink straight from water pumps. However, if you have got a water bottle, it's faster to fill up the water bottle and then drink from it than it is to drink with your hands. Now, let's imagine this water, we weren't sure about this water, or we'd filled up our water bottle from a river. You can actually purify it if you find chlorine tablets, like I've got here. See, chlorine tablets. So if we put them in our inventory with X, then use the shoulder buttons to come across. Let's see there we've got the chlorine tablets. Now, you'll see down at the bottom of the right side of the screen, it now says combine. So press B to combine, or it would be circle to combine on PlayStation. The way that you kind of combine things to craft things in DayZ is normally you'll have something in your hands and something in your inventory, and you'll combine the two together. So maybe, for example, with if you're making a fire drill, which you can use to start fires, you'll start with some bark in your hands and a small stick in your inventory. You combine the two and it'll make a fire drill. And it's very similar. So if we now press B to combine, you can see on the screen now in the middle it says press right trigger to purify. So we press and hold right trigger, and so your character is now putting a purification, a chlorine tablet, into the water bottle, so that water is now purified. So if you find some chlorine tablets, it means that you can wander around and you can safely purify water that you get from rivers and places like that. Now, canned food. We've got canned sardines, canned baked beans. Let's take these and let's go back to our inventory. Let's put them into our hands. Now, the problem with canned foods is, as you can see, there's no option to eat it. We need to open we need to open it first. Luckily, there's lots of different ways of opening cans. You can open cans with knives, you can open them with axes, hatchets, all sorts of things that you wouldn't think is probably correct. The thing you really want to find is the can opener. The reason for this is that if you open a can with a can opener, you'll get 100% of the contents out of it. Whereas if you open a can with an axe, you'll lose a lot of the contents, as you would expect. So what we can do, so if we go into our inventory, we highlight the can opener. As you can see, it says B to combine. That would be circle on PlayStation. Tap that, and we now have the option to open the can. So we press right trigger. There we go. And that is now going to open the can. And now you should see we've now got in the bottom left hand corner the option to eat the beans. There you go. So we're having some nice beans. Now watch in the bottom right hand corner. What you're looking for is you don't want the stomach full icon to appear for very long. So as soon as you see stomach full, stop eating. We definitely don't want to eat too much, because if you eat too much, you start vomiting. And you'll lose that food and lose that drink. There's lots of different foodstuffs available. Kind of not quite sure about this, but avoid dog food, cat food, and the unknown food. Not quite sure whether that's bad for you at the moment. So we talked about that. So knives. There's lots of different knives. Knives are very essential, so let's pick up a knife. And also let's pick up an axe. Now, what we've got now is you've now got quite a few things. So, for example, with the splitting axe, if we click and hold in the left stick and go up with our right stick and then press A on Xbox or X on PlayStation, we can now apply the splitting axe to one of our quick buttons. So if we press and hold the shoulder button, we can now quickly take the axe on and off. And if we went down to the knife, click and hold in the left stick, press right on our right stick, press A on Xbox, X on PlayStation, we can now have the knife there as well. So we can quickly change between items like so. Very, very good. Right, what have we got over here? So, rags and bandages and iodine. Now, rags are very important in DayZ. You can use them for many, many things, starting fires, turning into rope when you combine them together, and also solving wounds. So if you pick up a rag and you highlight it, you want to see if it is disinfected. As you can see, this isn't disinfected. So what we've got here is we've got some iodine tincture. So let's pick that up. Then if we go to the iodine tincture in my inventory, you'll now see we've got the option to combine again in the bottom right hand corner. So press B to combine. disinfect. That is now going to disinfect those bandages. Those rags, sorry. So if we highlight over them, it should now say disinfected. So now let's put them on our quick thing. So if we get a cut from being attacked by a zombie or something like that, we know we can treat ourselves with the rag. Now, if you do get a cut, all you need to do is have the rag in your hand, and you'll get the tooltip will appear in order to use the bandage to bandage yourself. Use the rag to bandage yourself. Bandages work faster than rags, and over time, as things get damaged, they can become not disinfected. So you need to regularly disinfect them. You can use alcoholic tincture, you can use disinfectant spray as well, and that sort of stuff. Now, if there are no rags around, you make rags by cutting up clothing. So for example, we've got a t-shirt here, so I've put a knife in my hand, and it's given me the option to press right trigger, and now if we look on the floor, there are now some more rags, so we can pick them up. We'll pick up the alcoholic tincture as well. Now, let's talk about weapons. Now, obviously the axe, very good weapon. You can just press left trigger to kind of aim and right trigger to swing. If you press and hold Y or triangle on PlayStation, you kind of do a big wind up, I think. Do you do a big wind up? I thought you did, maybe you don't. Yeah, I think you do. Yeah, it's a big wind up with Y. All right, yeah, there we go. And they ride it up, and that will give a strong hint, but you're using quite a lot of stamina to do that. Now, zombies, you want to aim for the head when a zombie's attacking you, and that will take them down quicker. But to defend yourself, you just pull back on the stick. And if you pull back on the stick, that will then defend. And at the moment, that blocks all zombie attacks. So if I was fighting this zombie and he kept swinging at me, if I just pull back, wait for him to attack, and then swing at him, that would be a good way of getting him. Obviously, the danger with the zombies isn't one zombie. You can deal with one zombie very easily, but if you get a number of zombies attacking you at once, they don't all attack you from the front. Some of them will attack you from the sides. So that's the tricky thing with zombies. So just remember, pull back to defend, and then swing to kill them. Right, so let us put our axe and let's go to the guns. So guns in DayZ are the things that can be some of the most tricky things to deal with. So here we have a rather nice M16. So let's just come over here. So we've got this M16, nice gun. However, it has no magazine on it. So with DayZ, if we put this on our shoulder by equipping it, let's go over and let's find the bullets. Here we have some bullets, and here we have a magazine. So what we need to do is, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to empty the magazine, because you'll probably find a magazine and it won't have many bullets in. It might have one or two. So I'm just going to take the bullets out. There we go. So when you find a magazine, it'll probably be something like that with a few bullets in. And you might find loose bullets, but hopefully you'll also find boxes of bullets. Now remember, the right bullets have to go in the right gun. So if we have a look at the M16, we'll see that it takes 5.56x45. So if we look at what's local to us on the ground, we've got some 5.56x45. So let's put that in our inventory, and we need to take the bullets out of the box. So we put the box in our hand, and then we just go out, and you'll see that in the bottom left corner it says unpack. So we press the right trigger. This will now unpack the bullets. So the bullets are now in our hand. So now what we want to do is just put them in our inventory with X. And now if we put the magazine into our hand, and now we go into our inventory using the D-pad and go to the bullets, see B to combine has appeared. Press B again, that would be circle on PlayStation. And then we've now got the tooltip to load the magazine. So we press RT. We're loading the magazine. Right, so we've now got the magazine is loaded. Let's put it back into our inventory with X. Let's hold on to the M16, and then if we aim down sights with the left trigger and press and hold press and hold Y, which would be triangle. We've then loaded our magazine into our gun, and it is ready to fire, like so. Now, when you pull the left trigger, you just kind of soft aim, like so. And then if you want to aim down sights, you click in the right stick. How easy is that? Now we can also lean by using the bumpers, the buttons above the triggers, and if we lay down on the ground, aim down sight, and lean, you can do a combat roll, but you've got to be aim down sight to do that. Looks a bit odd, doesn't it? So let's stand up. So that's our gun ready to go. Now let's just pop that one on the floor. Let's just drop it, because I want to show you another type of gun as well. So this is a Pioneer. Now the Pioneer, if you look below the Pioneer, you can see the attachments it takes. So there's a ghillie wrap, a scope, a silencer, and a magazine. Now luckily here is a magazine on the floor, so I can actually press B to put that in the gun straight away. There we go, so that's gone in the gun straight away. And there is a scope on the floor, so let's put the scope in our inventory. So there's the scope. Not all scopes fit all guns, but this one fits this one. And then we would press Y to equip it onto the Pioneer. So there we go. So now, if we aim down sight, we've got a red dot. And if you press the right of your D-pad, it will swap to the a magnified sight. And if you press and hold right on your D-pad, it will go back to the red dot that's on the top of that sight. Sights that only have the magnified one, it will go straight to that. So the idea of that was just to show you how different guns have different attachments. So you can see now how when you find ammunition, not only do you have to take it out of the box, if it's in a box, you've then got to load the magazine, and you've got to put the magazine into the gun. Here is the tourist map. Let's open that up. You can kind of zoom in and out. It's a bit slow, to be honest, but it's a fun thing. But you're more likely to use I Survive. But what is very useful is the compass, and the compass comes in two flavours, like an orienteering compass, like a plastic compass, and this brass compass. Best to go to first person view by double clicking in your right stick, and then press the right trigger, and that will then bring up the compass. South is to my left, north is to my right. As you can see, you move around, and the red arrow is where north is, and you can have a look. So if you're ever not quite sure where you're going, or you're going across country, if you use a compass, that will help you go in the right direction. Wow, we have covered an awful lot of ground here, haven't we? So here we go, medical stuff. Now you will get ill throughout your time in DayZ. I guarantee you will die of getting ill. Now there's different medicines, but I've picked up a few here. Here we have codeine pills. These are painkillers. These are only really good for if you've broken your leg or something like that, and that they will help you to not have as much shock damage. Charcoal tablets, let's pick those up. So charcoal tablets are useful for when you get, in fact, let's put those away. Charcoal tablets are good for when you get some sort of food poisoning normally. So if you've eaten something nasty, the charcoal absorbs the nastiness in your stomach, so they're always good. Tetracycline. Now tetracycline are antibiotics. These are very, very important. If you get ill because of an infection, so that would be, say, if you'd had a bleed and you treated that bleed with a bandage or a rag that wasn't disinfected, that you could get blood infection, so you need to use tetracycline, a couple of those to heal yourself. Also, it's important to remember, bleeds do heal themselves. So if you're in a situation where you you start bleeding and the bleed heals itself, you will probably get an blood infection unless you can treat yourself with some alcoholic tincture straight away. Now, when you take a pill, if you look in the bottom right hand corner, I'm not ill, but if I was ill, you can see it in the bottom right corner. You can see this little pill appears, and that would mean that I would be treating myself. Now, for some diseases, depending on how far it goes, you might need to take a couple of doses of a tetracycline or one of the others. So you would take a pill, wait for the pill to wear off, and then take another one. What else have I put down here as well? You've got the POX antidote, which is if you get chemical poisoning from a chemical strike. So we'll talk about that in a sec. And then we've got epinephrine, which is adrenaline, which again is, you tend to use it a lot if you're doing combat in PvP, because I think it means that you don't have to hold your breath quite as long. So let's talk about broken legs. So if you fall off a height or get shot in the leg, you may well end up with a broken leg, and this is where splints come in. Now you can make splints with sticks and rags, and I highly recommend you make a splint and have it in your backpack so that when you break your leg you can apply it, which allow you to walk around, and then your leg will heal itself after about an hour, I think it is. Now this stuff here is NBC gear. So around DayZ there are permanent toxic zones with yellow gas, like up at Riffy. In order to enter these areas you need to put a full NBC suit on, which consists of a mask with a filter, NBC gloves, NBC hood, NBC jacket, NBC trousers and NBC shoes. Then you can safely go into the area. There'll be nasty zombies in there as well, and you can look for the high tier loot. High tier loot spawns inside these sorts of areas. You'll find NBC stuff in military areas and in hospital areas. Also, as you're wandering around the map, there are random artillery strikes that bring down gas strikes onto villages and towns and cities. So if you hear artillery and you look up and then you see a flare in the sky, run away as fast as you can, because if you get ill from a gas attack, a toxic gas attack, you're most likely going to die, because what you can do is you can either treat yourself with the POX antidote, or which you only find inside a gas zone, or you can give yourself a blood transfusion. So if you haven't managed to give yourself take some blood, which I'm not going to cover in this video, then you're probably going to die that way as well. Wow, so as you can see, we've covered a lot of ground. Now the reason why I've spawned in these buildings behind is because in DayZ the appropriate type of loot spawns in at the appropriate type of thing. So, for example, as you're wandering around, if you want to find civilian clothes and food and things like that, you'll find them in the villages, in normal buildings. You'll find tools, things like axes and shovels and spades and things like that, and hammers. You'll find them in the sheds that are around. You'll find medical stuff inside medical clinics like this, or hospitals. You'll find industrial stuff in industrial areas and workshops like this. And you'll find sort of military gear, military uniforms, weapons on military bases and in military barracks like this. It's all kind of logical where you'll find stuff. And so when you're planning your route, if you are planning your route using something like iSurvive, just bear that in mind. Also remember that people who want high-end loot will head towards the military bases, because that's where the good guns are, which means that you're more likely to get attacked and more likely to get killed as well if you go to that sort of thing. Now, let us talk a little bit about hunting. So hopefully, here we have a nice little chicken. Hello, chicken. So if you come across a chicken, these are the most common animals in DayZ. You can hopefully kill them like this, and if you've got a knife in your hand you can then skin and quarter them like so. These are a very important source of food. And then you can see we've got some bones which you can make into hooks, and we've got some chicken steak. So let's take the chicken steak like so. Now when you've skinned and quartered an animal, your hands will be dirty. So go up to a pump and clean them, or if you have a bottle of water in your hand, you can clean your hands with that. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to cook this meat. So I'm going to show you how to make a simple fire now. So to make a simple fire, we're going to need some bark. So we're going to cut off some bark from a tree. Like so. And then we're going to need some sticks, and we're going to need a long stick. Oh, no, so let's find a bush. Bushes are good. Have you got any bushes around here? Cut off bark. These are all little trees, aren't they? They're not bushes really that I can use. see if we can find a bush. Oh, here we go. We've got some bushes here, I think. These would be bushes. Right, these are bushes. So, let's cut up this bush. Right, let's see what it's given us. Right, it's given us a long stick. Now, we want that long stick, so we're going to take that. But we want some short sticks as well. That's a long stick. So let's just take that stick into our hands. And then if we come out, if you look in the bottom left-hand corner, it says right trigger to split. So let's split this up. Let's put those short sticks into our hand. Now, let's wander back down into our makeshift village, like so. What we're going to do now is we are going to take our short sticks, which are there, and we're going to put them into our hand with A, and then we're going to go to our bandages, not the disinfected. Have we got ones that aren't disinfected? There we go. Yeah, they're normal. And you see, it says B to combine, and it would be circle to combine on PlayStation. And we're going to combine them, and it says craft a torch with right trigger. Now, we're not going to craft a torch. We're going to just tap our right trigger, craft a fireplace. That's what we want to do. So now we're going to press right trigger. And we've now crafted a fireplace. So if we now go into our inventory, there will be a fireplace on the floor, which we can put into our hands if we want. So see, I've got it into my hands. So now if I press RT, I can choose where I want to put it. So let's put it, say, there so we can see it. So there is our fireplace, which is cool. But now we need to light our fireplace. Now, if we had a lighter, we could light it. If we had matches, we could light it. But if we take our... Oh, actually, we need some more sticks. Let's just get some more sticks. We can just use your hands to cut bushes, actually. Alright, so there's a long stick. So let's split that into two smaller sticks. Let's go back down to where our fireplace is. Hopefully we're going to be able to see it. There it is. What we're going to do is we're going to combine our bark with our short stick. And you'll see it says craft a fireplace now. So we press R. Craft a hand drill. Press right trigger and hold it. And a hand drill is, basically you're getting a stick, you're putting it against the bark, and you're spinning it together. So that will then drop onto the floor. So there it is. So let's put that into our hands. And now what we can do is we can light our fire. Now first though, I'm just going to put the hand drill into my backpack. We're going to take our long stick and we're going to combine that with our knife. And we're going to sharpen it. So there is our sharpened stick that we put into our hand. Now what we can do is if we press and hold A, that would be X on PlayStation, and press left top bumper, and then press right trigger to go down, we can now put the meat onto the sharpened stick. So that's good. So let's put that into our backpack. Now we can get our hand drill, which is there, and we can ignite the fire. Here it comes. So now if we now put the stick with the meat on, we'll now get the option, with a bit of luck, to roast our food. Come on, give me the option. Why isn't it giving me the option to roast our food? Roast, there we go, RT. So what would happen there is the fire's actually gone out because I haven't put enough sticks on it. But as you can see, my meat would slowly be roasting on the end of the stick. Oh, it's come light again. Excellent, here we go. So we're just waiting for it to go round. Dumpty 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 Dum. This would also be warming me up and drying my clothes out as well if you're next to a fire. Now, you can't start a fire if it's raining or if it's too windy. And inside as well. You've got to be outside to start a fire. However, you will notice that there are fireplaces inside. So my meat has changed colour. Now, you don't want to eat it straight away because it would be too hot. So we can let that cool down. There we go. So now, if we go down to the meat, put the meat in our inventory, put our stick in our inventory, let's put that in our hands. Now, it's probably a little bit hot. It's about 90 degrees, so we want to let it cool first before we eat it. Now, if you go inside houses, you may be lucky, and a house may well have a fireplace. Let's see if there's one in here. Yes, there is. So if you go to a fireplace and you open a fireplace up like this, and then you have some wood, like some bark on you, you can put the bark on and the fireplace will then open up and you can add fuel to the fireplace. Kindling is the bark, and then you'll be able to light it with a lighter or a hand drill, and then you can cook things by placing them either on the cooking section or the smoking section. Food goes off in time, so the longer you if you want to keep food for a long time, smoke it, and that is basically drying it out. Whereas if you just cook it or you keep it raw, it will start rotting fairly quickly. So now what we can do, we can now put that chicken into our hands, and we can now eat it. I'll just say it one more time. So the one thing I haven't talked about that I've just realised is your mic. So when you come up to other players, if you press down on the D-pad, that will turn your mic on so you can talk to people. If you double tap it, it used to be that it was down all the time, but it doesn't. Yeah, so just hold down on the D-pad, and then you can talk to other players using the in-game chat. Just be aware that if you're in party chat, then that won't work. Right, we have covered an awful lot of ground in this video, and we have only really scratched the surface of what can happen in DayZ. Hopefully this is just the beginning of your journey, and I've given you enough skills to allow you to carry on and learn more. There's loads of amazing content creators out there, so just do a YouTube search for DayZ Beginner's Guide, Beginner's Hints and Tips, and you'll learn all sorts of things like how to chop down trees, how to get cars going, the best weapons to use, how to survive for longer, how to hunt, how to farm, all this sorts of stuff we haven't even touched in this video. But hopefully I've given you the basics. You know what to do when you spawn in, you know where to go, you'll know the sort of clothes you should be looking for, you'll know how to eat, you'll know how to drink, you'll know how to load a weapon, you know how to start a fire, you know how to skin a chicken. And yes, this is just the start of a very long and very interesting journey where you'll have some of the best video game experiences of your life. Anyway, that's enough from me. Hopefully you found this useful, and I will of course see you again soon.